Tony, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining today.
Hey, Brian, pleasure to be here, man. Let's help the people.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. And I don't want to make you blush too much up front, but I have to tell you a quick story before we get into it. You know, when I was in college and even after college, I did weightlifting, heavy lifting, all this stuff, kind of moving the weights around in the gym. And it was really a serendipitous moment, having coffee with my brother one morning. And he's like, hey, I discovered this workout called P90X. You should try it. And sure enough, this was like in '08, I think it was '09, maybe 2010, something like that.
Out there.
But that changed the course of my fitness. And now, I'm massive into fitness. I do CrossFit. I do a lot of different stuff, very active, but that changed it. So I just want to say thank you, because it was impactful for me and I know for a lot of other people. So
you are very welcome. You're a wiser man because of it. Hey, and there's nothing going to the gym and pumping iron and lifting weights. That's how I started too. I was a member of 3 different gyms, and one gym was just World Gym. It was where Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lou Ferrigno worked out. And I, 45 sets of chest. Okay, let's do that. And it's great and it gets people moving and they're healthier. But yeah, we've evolved since then. My new program is much more evolved than even P90X was. And, because, I like challenges. I like working on my weaknesses as much or more so than anything. And I don't mind the learning curve. I used to hate it. If I was terrible at something, I would quit almost immediately. And then I went, oh, I'm terrible at this. Yoga, I should go more,
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's what you learn with P90X. So good for you.
Yeah. Well, that's maybe a good starting point. We can go on a lot of different wormholes here, and I think we will with some stories, but you talked about weaknesses. I want to go back and maybe this may be the best moment. You may share another one, but one of the things I always loved Steve Jobs used to say is you only can connect the dots looking back. And doing some research, I found that there was maybe a serendipitous moment for you in college where you took weightlifting. And I'm not sure if that was the point when fitness really entered your life. Maybe it was a time before, but could you share a little bit about that? And was that the jump off, or was there another point that really fitness became, part of your life?
Well, it was a class I took at URI, and I got an A because I enjoyed it, and I never missed it. And a lot of it had to do with the teacher. And to this day, I don't remember his name, which is really such a bummer. I tried to even look at some of the records and they couldn't find his name in that class, which is too bad. But he had a huge influence on me because he made the process fun. And prior to that, it was just murder. It was awful. I loved playing hoop, and I loved to ski, and I loved tennis, and I played golf, and I was on the high school football team, more of a tackling dummy really than I was an actual player. And it was fitness, even though it was something I wanted to do, it was a very frustrating thing because I didn't know how to train for any of it. I didn't know there was a process and a journey to go from being terrible at something to being pretty good at it. And so I think that happens to a lot of people. They see other people perform on a high level and they just assume that, Steph Curry, he shoots thousands and thousands and thousands of shots every day. And that's the reason why he's better. He's, obviously he's genetically gifted as well. His father was a professional athlete, and he had his brother to kind of play with, too. But still, he was in the gym more than everybody else. And that's why he got better. If you watch the All-Star game, it's like half court shots turning around, the ball swishing into the net. Like, holy cow. But I wasn't that kid. I didn't have the coaches and the mentors and the teachers, right? So when I finally went off to URI and I met this guy, and he said, hey, you got a whole semester to kind of go from point A to point B. We're going to track your progress. You're going to write down what you're going to do. What you did in P90X, right? And then we're going to, we're not going to beat ourselves up if we don't like the results happening at the pace that we think they should happen. And so I go, oh, that's weird. Okay. So whatever. At the end of the semester, I was jacked, because I was young and I'm an ectomorph, which means I'm a skinny guy anyway. So my results were pretty good. And that just did a lot. My GPA went up that semester because, I'm releasing all these brain chemicals that I talk about a lot. I was just in a better mood and I had more confidence and I looked better and, like, whoa, what happened to you, dude? Gee, look at you. I'm like, what? That's weird, And then of course that semester ended and then I didn't keep going and I got skinny again. And I came out to California and I discovered that there were gyms on every corner here, and which was different than the East Coast at that time. They're on every corner now, really all across the country. But back then it was like, it was at the high school, it was at the college, but it wasn't, on the corner across from the grocery store or next to the pharmacy. And here it just was like, there's that gym and this gym and there's aerobics classes and what the heck is that? And of course, California is sunny 362 days out of the year.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, today it's 55, we're all freezing, you know what I mean? Like, but still people are out and about. And I just fell in love with the culture. And then I got back into it again. Not as intense as I think the course was, because I was going to the gym really at that point more for social reasons, to kind of meet people and stuff. And then finally, then it just kicked in. I read, all these books behind me are personal development books. So, I read that, consistency is kind of an important thing when it comes to your physical, mental, and emotional quality of life. Mm-hmm. And so I just sort of applied some of those rules to the fitness end of my life. And, then I met my first celebrity client and, oh, wow, I'm a trainer now. I better get certified. And then the story goes on and on from there.
Well, and that's what was intriguing. And tell me, and fact check me on this. Did you want to be a comedian? Is that right?
Well, let me no, yes, I did. I did comedy for 2 years. I tried. I mean, I would do these stand-up things and I would go to the Improv and Mitzi Gaynor, who owned the print, you're funny, but come back in 6 months. You need more work. Like, you don't love me today. I quit, but I did that. And I was part of Second City, LA, which there was Second City, Chicago. And I did a fabulous Columbo. I got to tell you, my Columbo was pretty good. And so I just had that affinity for those types of things because I had a speech impediment as a kid. And just communicating with people was hard. So what do? I decided to do comedy and acting. You know what I mean? And I think those two, that part of my journey allowed me to be able to disseminate what I needed to disseminate to people and communicate better and not stutter and stammer anymore. And that was my own personal rehab to kind of build my confidence in that respect. But yeah, it was fun. And what happens when you're in front of a bunch of people on stage and you've got these jokes that you've written or co-written with other friends, and sometimes they hit and sometimes they don't, but boy, it certainly thickens your skin, So now I'm at that point where, I can be in front of 20,000 people and do my thing and not even think twice about it or whatever. I mean, the other day I was shooting for my supplement line and there were all these lines and all this blocking. So blocking is when there's a lot of physical activity that has to be done in the midst of doing your lines. And sometimes I'm reading off the teleprompter. Other times I'm having to, look back at this chart and talk about the chart. And I'm a little, there's some trepidation prior, but you get through it and everybody's like, holy cow, man, that was hilarious. And that was, that hopefully, they'll edit that thing together and it'll be something. But it was the stand-up comedy in the Improv and the scene study classes and all those early years that allowed me just to be comfortable in front of crowds and in front of a camera and allows me to be the guy I am today.
Did you find that having that background, and again, maybe that was just fortunate that you kind of got into all that and it helped you on the fitness journey, but like when you started to, train, celebrities out there, like I'm assuming, I could be totally wrong, but that was intimidating as a young guy, like, getting into that world and doing that. So did that help you having that, I don't want to say rejection, but like you get a lot of that. You kind of grow up a lot when you're on stage and you're in front of a lot of people. Did that help you kind of get over the hump early on in your fitness career?
Almost certainly. When my first celebrity client was Tom Petty. And, before that I was training my boss. I was a runner or a PA, production assistant at 20th Century Fox. And, he and I would go into my buddy's garage and work out a little bit. He was my only client because he noticed that, as a young actor, my agent was saying, like, you're kind of pudgy around the stomach and skinny around the arms. You might want to reverse that if you want more work. So, a young actor with an agent, you just did everything they said. And then other people started to notice, and my boss was one of them. So I was just training him. And then he introduced me to Tom Petty and I wasn't even certified yet, but I've been going to World Gym and these different gyms and, kind of taking notes and, sort of the Abraham Lincoln approach to learning about it. But, and then, I had Tom for 4 months and I got him in phenomenal shape and he got super ripped and his cardiovascular health improved tremendously because he was a smoker. So I had him hitting a heavy bag and getting on the stationary bike and just running him through basic, push-ups and bench press and squats and lunges and bicep curls and triceps and shoulder presses and all of it, you know what I mean? And so and as a performer, like I was, at that point I was an unknown comic or an unknown whatever. And I don't even think Tom knew that I was doing that kind of stuff. He just knew that he could relate to me. And I knew that I could have a conversation with him outside of just being his drill sergeant, and I was a normal guy. And I was never the kind of person, because I had such a kind of a lame history with fitness. I never thought of myself as some sort of an authority where, I had to behave a certain way. My persona is the person you're talking to now is the same person you see on P90X is the same person I am with Tom Petty. You know what I mean? I'm not putting on some act, and we just got along. I mean, that was the reason why he kept showing up, and he'd like me coming to his house, because, even though he was working hard, he didn't feel berated. He didn't feel like I was, down his throat with this stuff. And then, then it was Billy Idol was next. And then it was Annie Lennox. And then it was, Sean Connery and Shirley MacLaine and Stephen Stills and Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks. Couldn't do much for her. And couldn't do much for Stephen Stills either. But, you try. Bryce Dallas Howard, Allison Janney, Octavia Spencer. And there's a lot of people that, Joey Fatone. I mean, I trained, golly, so many different people, man. I even forget sometimes. I forgot that I trained Marlene Matlin. I've completely forgot that who was one of the nicest people in the world. And, training Bruce Springsteen was intimidating. I mean, even after I've been training Tom and Billy and all these folks, hey, Tony, we got chest and back today. It's my Bruce, And I trained his wife for a couple of years on and off. I mean, they don't live in LA, they live in Jersey, but when they're here, they would call me up and say, hey, we'd like to go through the paces. And so, all that acting and comedy and improv and then training celebrities. I mean, these were the rungs in the ladder to get to the point where I can, do what I do now. I mean, I'm on Tonal right now, and not to pat myself on the back to tell you how awesome I am, but I have the #1 program on the platform, and I have for a while. And there are other great trainers on the platform. I've just been doing it forever, man. So to me, it's just, it's like breathing or eating breakfast. It's not that complicated.
Well, I think it's, part of it too. And I'll take a side street for a minute, just to kind of share, like, again, just being someone that obviously went through P90X, P90X3. I loved hardcore. I'll tell you what, you don't think you can get a workout in 22 minutes. My goodness. That'll beat you up pretty good. Recommend that.
That's a little buzzsaw up there.
Oh, dude, that ab workout in hardcore. Oh my God. But
good.
But what I'm saying is, it's one thing when you're working out, and I hear this with folks that do different workout programs and stuff, but like, it's one thing if it's like you're just going through the motions, but when you have someone like yourself that's engaging, you can make some jokes, it kind of brings you like a little lighter in the room. Like, you don't feel like, okay, I'm in this hard workout. So I'm not surprised that you have the #1 workout there just because of that, just because of personality and obviously how you can relate to people. And so that's where I wanted to kind of go, because one of the things, again, with the whole Just Get Started, mission and folks that are trying to go over the hump and do something maybe greater in their life and make a change. When did you decide to go, or again, maybe it was something that randomly happened, go from, hey, I'm just going to train folks, to now there's this opportunity, there's some new medium here to get out and go into obviously the whole DVD space and the videos and all that. How did that transition happen for you? Do you mind sharing that a little bit?
Well, the whole thing was a fluke. You know what I mean? I should be living in a van down by the river. Really, if you look who I was and now, where I am. But, initially I came to town, to LA, to be an actor. I thought I was some kind of version of Jim Carrey and Brad Pitt, all wrapped in one. Hilarious, yet dramatic. But coming into this town and doing, there are a lot of people who are successful. I have friends, young friends now that are pursuing their acting career, and it's such a grind, man. And there's so much competition, and so much of it is luck. And you can do everything right, and barely, get a couple commercials or something. It's just this never-ending thing. And I didn't have much of a work ethic to kind of pursue it. I did. I was always in class. I was either in a improv class, or I was in a cold reading class, or a scene study class, or I was doing stand-up, or I was, working at this, the Second City LA was only a year because it disbanded, unfortunately. I enjoyed it. But, and that all my friends were actors. There was something about the culture and about those kinds of folks. And that's what I came out here to do. You know what I mean? And so, I was a plumber and a carpenter and a handyman, and I was a statue, because I was a trained pantomime when I went to URI. One of the classes that I took I took mime 101, 102, 201 through. Because I had that speech thing still, right? So I thought, I want to perform. So let me learn how to, get to walk the window, the walking in the, the glass box, the walking in the wind, the climbing of the ropes, all that kind of stuff. And so part of how I made a living when I was out here was I'd go to UCLA, in Westwood near UCLA, and I'd put the hat down and try to make a few bucks. And I'd go down to the Santa Monica or Venice Pier, and I put the hat down so I could, make $25 so I could live on Cheerios and yogurt for 3 days, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was just, but I was in my 20s and I didn't care, and everything was fancy free, and I just wanted to, survive because I loved the culture. I fell in love with this place immediately, and fitness was just like, well, I don't know, I would play tennis or hoop or whatever. And then I just kind of fell into the fitness, the gym scene, because my agent said, hey, look, you gotta get stronger or look better. Okay. And so I joined the Sports Connection on Ocean Park Avenue in Santa Monica. It was like $99 a year, unlimited access, and then I would go to these aerobics classes and I'd look in the window and I go, there's no dudes in there. Yeah, of course. I go, why aren't there guys in there? Because I don't know, they're upstairs lifting weights. I go, but all the women are in there. Let's go in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, by the way, I never met anybody. I just, like, hi, Sally, what's going on? They wouldn't even look at me, like to focus on their fitness. So I had to go to bars, I guess, to meet people. But, it was a mishmash of all kinds of different things. But it was never, the first gig I ever got when it came to fitness was working for Nordic Track, and they were out of Minneapolis. And so a friend of mine worked for Nordic Track and said, hey, they're looking for a guy who can walk and chew gum at the same time. And I was pretty jacked, but I was also good at reading a teleprompter and, and improvising and whatnot. And so I was up there about 6 or 7 times doing various things for them. A lot of them were sort of their instructional videos on their Nordic Track. Hi, everybody, Tony Horton here. I see you've got your Nordic Track, and it's going to take us about 6 hours to put this son of a bitch together, but here we go. You know what I mean? It was like, I'm kidding, of course, but it was like that, those kind of videos, plus whatever new products they had that came out. So I was getting my chops there in front of the camera, but it was just a gig. It was just another gig. It just happened to be a fitness gig as opposed to one for like Lowenbrow beer, or another one for some other little thing, or some little teeny tiny part in a movie or whatever I got. And then, I just happened to, I was reading one of my personal development books, and it said, there was I wish I remember, I was going to say it might be The Magic Lamp by Keith Ellis, but I'm not sure if that's it, but which is a great book for people who want to figure out their raison d'etre, as the French would say, their reason for being. And there was a lesson at the end of every chapter. One of them was, go out of your way, do something really extraordinary for somebody that you're in conflict with, a family member or somebody who just, you hate them and they hate you, but maybe you shouldn't, and you should do something nice and don't expect anything in return. Okay, so there was this lawyer that I used to play hoop with a bunch of other lawyers. I was the only non-lawyer, and he was kind of a bonehead. He didn't like me, and after one of the games, we happened to be on the same team that day. Long story short, we won the game. He was complaining about his weight, and I was kind of overhearing the conversation. And I thought, why do you want to do something nice? All right, so I walked over. His name was Ben, and hey, Ben, I heard you talking and I can help you with that. Assuming he would just go, no, I don't even like you. And he went, oh yeah, that sounds good. Don't you train like Tom Petty and Billy Idol? I was like, wow, you even know that? And the following Monday, he came to the house. A year later, he introduced me to Carl Deichler, and Carl Deichler is the CEO of Beachbody. And Carl and I did this thing called Great Body Guaranteed, which was just another job, paid me $2,000. And it worked. And then they got investors, and I'm still doing carpentry, and I'm still doing acting, and I'm trying to do some stand-up, and I was in a play at that time, and he goes, hey, that great body thing that we did worked. Let's do another one. Oh, cool. He goes, you should get a lawyer and get royalties. Oh, okay, fine. So we did something called Power 90, which was pre-P90X. And I lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with a view of a convalescent home, and I was always in debt. I had 2 cars, I thought it was a big deal, but I had 2 cars because one was an 84 Land Cruiser that was always broken, and the other one was a 66 Mustang that was always broken. So it was like, which car is it broken today? So I can drive to Malibu to train Tom Petty. And I started getting these royalty checks, and it was like the lottery every month. It was like the lottery. And I was 60 grand in debt. So I paid that off like on 7 different visas, like boom, 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 boom. And I stashed it away like an adult. And I bought a 4-bedroom home in Santa Monica. I had no furniture for a while. And then we did this thing that we like, Carl's like, what's the next thing we should do? I go, I don't know. Why don't we help folks who are really struggling with weight? He goes, no, let's make Power 90 harder. What? yeah, man. I go, he said, I'm going to give you 6 months to develop this thing. And so I talked to every expert I knew, and we made a little movie about it. And it was called P90X. So I was able to buy furniture for the house and put some money away and buy a better car, and the beat goes on from there. So it was never something that I had ever planned. I always thought of it as as sort of another job. And who knew that we, between the ones that were sold and the ones that were pirated, the number's around 11 million copies. I mean, I can't go anywhere to this day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even with the beard, even with the wrinkles, even with the older, that I run into people all the time that said, I mean, I was in Jackson Hole. I have a place there, and my wife and I were there, and some girl behind the counter was in the military. And I've been to 66 military bases around the world, the Pentagon twice, and, the Armed Forces Entertainment has invited me to go all over the world. And this gal happened to be one of those people who was in the Army doing P90X, and her sister had committed suicide, and she was recruiting men and women to go to Afghanistan and Iraq who were not coming back. And it was really, really hard for her. But P90X kept her from going insane. And she let me know about it, and she had tears in her eyes. And that was only 4 weeks ago. And so, yeah, it has, pinched me, I mean, like, wow. I can't believe it's happened to me, so I'm very lucky.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. And, most folks would just kind of ride that out. But one of the things I've appreciated about you is you've continued to reinvent yourself and kind of.
I'm like Madonna, man.
Yeah, there you go. But all these different things that, again, over the years, you've obviously with tonal and some other stuff you're doing. But how have you? Let's talk, if you can, about mindset a little bit. Of maybe having whether it's a positive mindset, or maybe you can take a different approach to the question, but how has that been important to kind of keep rejuvenating yourself, getting up every day and keep pushing forward, and finding kind of new mountains to climb, if you will? Is there anything you'd share kind of on that journey, maybe over the last, I don't know, 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, mindset is an interesting topic. It's sort of, mindset's just another 2 words for attitude, and how do you establish an attitude that creates productivity and optimism and hope in your life, and growth and transformation, right? And so your mindset is the whole thing. And I mean, if you're my new program, The Power of Four, it's about exercise and nutrition and supplementation and mindfulness, but there's a 5th subcategory, which is mindset. And you can do everything right, but if you don't have if you're not in the right headspace, then and the nutrition matters, and the mindfulness matters, and the exercise will help create a better, more productive mindset. And so for me, my mindset came from a lot of these books, because my mind was all over the place, and I was completely out of my mind in some respects. When it came to, who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing on this earth. And, it's just new information. I mean, when you exercise and you're struggling and you're overweight and you have no muscle mass or anything, and you start exercising, and if you stick with it, and of course there's a certain amount of consistency and intensity and a purpose and the right kind of people in your life to help you through that journey, then you're going to establish a new mindset. You're not going to be the person that you were. The way you think, the way you operate, will change purely based on your behavior. Mm-hmm. And we are physical, mental, emotional, and for a lot of people, very spiritual beings. And so and they're all interconnected, one with the other. And so when you understand that okay, if I read this, my mindset's going to change. If I do this, my mindset's going to change. If I reach out to somebody who I'm in conflict with and I do something nice, my mindset's going to change. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times we live in our bubbles, and we're very myopic about the way we look at the world. And, and that optimism disappears over time. And then we're looking through buttonholes, because, and then you end up with early onset curmudgeon disorder, and that becomes chronic curmudgeon disorder. And then it becomes terminal curmudgeon disorder, which are not real disorders, but that's who we are. You know what I mean? And a lot of it has to do with being open to new things and trying new things and meeting new kinds of people and traveling and, and just stepping out the front door and whatever. And that keeps you young. You know what I mean? I mean, yoga keeps you young. Meditation keeps you young. And both of those things will change your mindset in conjunction with how every morsel that you put in your mouth is a chemical that affects how your brain is going to function, and how you're going to think and how you're going to feel. And, thinking and feeling are they're one and the same. And that's where mindset comes in. I mean, I got sick in 2017, in October 2017, and everything was going just fine. But, within the course of a week, my negotiations with Beachbody were falling apart, which I thought, wow, okay, I'm going to work for this company forever, but they don't want to pay me anymore. So, okay. That's weird, but all right. And so having to, just completely reinvent myself, which has turned out pretty good. And then Tom Petty passes away. And then there's that Vegas shooting the day before that. And I knew people that were there. It's just like, it felt like the world was caving in on me. And I didn't have a good mindfulness practice at that point. And so I just got crazy stressed out. And then I got Ramsay-Hunt syndrome, which is shingles in your ear, which is the last place you want shingles because it affects all these nerves inside of your brain that affect your sight and your taste and your smell and your balance. And, when you can't move and you can't eat and you can't drive and you can't train and all you want to do is sleep and vomit, you start reading, and all the king's horses and all the king's men tried to put me back together again. But, when you got Bell's palsy and half your face is melting off, you just think, wow, what'd I do to deserve this? And a lot of people, especially with COVID, long haulers and folks like that. I mean, I know some of them are just, I have a kid, right? A friend of mine whose son is, he's got his heart rate's going through the roof. His lungs something's going on, and there's nothing they can do for him. So, and a lot of the people in his life are saying, you got to learn how to breathe, man. You got to learn how to be quiet and breathe. Box breathing, 5.5 breathing, whatever it is. And at least bring your heart rate down and help you kind of deal with your stuff. And so that's what, for me, it's a long answer, but for me, mindset is everything, man. And things are going to happen in your life that you just can't control sometimes, you know what I mean? And so, how do you roll with it? How do you deal with it? Where do you search for answers? And it's not easy, being sick in 2017, it's hard to believe it was that long ago, but I still have issues. I still have balance issues at times. I can't stand on one foot to save my life. And which is kind of a bummer, but I can throw on a pair of skis and fly down a mountain, better than ever. So you deal with what you get, and mindset will help you move through the proper mindset, the proper techniques, the proper people, the good mentors that help adjust the way you think. You got to search them out. You got to, it's no one's going to tap you on the shoulder and go, hey, here it is. You got to go search it out, whatever works for you, but it'll help you get through the toughest stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm a huge believer in that. I mean, I'm curious any routines you've put in, because I've known that, like, I put a bedtime routine in to kind of structure to make sure I get the right sleep. I have this morning routine now to sit in stillness, which is something important. So it's kind of like putting these practices and you don't do it all at once. It takes time and you slowly adapt and evolve and change and figure it out. So is there anything, and maybe you could take in 2017, because my big question, and this could be helpful for a lot of folks, is it's one thing to say, I want to change, right? You had all this stress, you had all this stuff going on, but how did you commit to the change? What were some of the things that got you over the hump, whether it was certain routines or practices or habits that you put into place to get healthier and get on, kind of the next thing and away from the health issues you were having?
Well, a lot of people who get what I had, which is, it's called Ramsay-Hunt syndrome. And then that usually will lead into something called bilateral vestibular hypofunction, which is a form of vertigo, but it's more like brain Parkinson's, where the brain kind of feels like it's just sort of shaking inside of your head, and which is very disconcerting and makes life kind of hard. But I had a background of doing the right thing. And even though I had lost all that weight and I could barely get out of bed, or I couldn't even turn my head side to side without throwing up. I'd have to walk around like this. It was really brutal. And so for me, I already had the work ethic in place, right? And that's all I knew, because all these docs and therapists, I mean, the physical therapist helped me, learn how to walk again, really. But I just had to rely on what I was already doing. And then I had to double down, you know what I mean? And continue to, I read a book called Full Catastrophic Living by John Kabat-Zinn that had a big influence on me. And I read that thing and just went, okay. And there's some things I've never done before. And it was so hard because you have to kind of, it's like prayer, you know what I mean? Like meditation. Okay, I'm going to sit here. I already breathe. Like, wait, come on. Like how I got to breathe deeper now, and that's going to do something. Well, that's what exercise is. Exercise is just deeper breathing, right? Which, when you look at the science of it, just jams more oxygen into the blood cells, which goes everywhere, and especially inside of your brain. And when you're pumping a bunch of oxygenated blood into your brain, norepinephrine, dopamine, serotonin, brain-derived neurotropic factor, all these different things start getting released, which is the reason why people take drugs and smoke cigarettes and eat a bunch of sugar and get high and get drunk, is because that same chemical reaction happens almost immediately. But with exercise and meditation, it takes time and effort and all that. And a lot of people don't have, they don't have the attention span to do it the right way. So, short-term pleasures, long-term problems, short-term effort, a life of joy and happiness and fulfillment. Right. So I already knew all that. So I just, like I said, I just doubled down and it was a long haul. I remember it was October, November, December. I remember in December, I decided to go skiing, which was like, I wasn't even able, I was just beginning to drive again. I was just beginning to be able to walk in a straight line. So I thought, I got to go skiing. Of course, I ran into a tree. I thought I broke my femur, but I just, I just had a contusion the size of a basketball that ran all the way down my leg. I shouldn't have been skiing yet. It took me 15 minutes to put my ski boots on. I knew that I shouldn't have been out there, but I just, I was stubborn. And that's kind of my nature, right? And that's not everybody. And a lot of people get hit with this thing and they're so overwhelmed and so destroyed by it that it's permanent. It becomes a permanent thing. And if you don't really work really hard at the rehab part of it, then you're going to, you're disabled.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm still like standing on one foot is always a mystery for me. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but nerves are funny. I mean, it's all nerve damage. You know how long your arm's going to take to heal when you break it. You know how long a cut's going to take to heal. But nerves, like you talk to a doctor, yeah, like, here are all these very finite things. Like here's a scale of healing, right? Mm-hmm. Bones and skin and tendons and ligaments. Here's nerves. It's, it's like, I don't know, maybe it'll heal, maybe it won't, right. Depends on the individual. It's genetic in some respects. And so, yeah, I mean, I still do a lot of balance and proprioception exercises. I remember, on P90X2, I don't know if you ever did P90X2, but there's tons and tons of balance and proprioception in that thing. We're doing push-ups on 4 med balls. I remember when I was starting to go back to the gym again, getting on 4 med balls was like doing, push-ups in an earthquake. It was just brutal, but then it got better and I can do them again, So, yeah, I mean, mindset, mindfulness, these are things that were like, before all this happened. But now they're as critical as the nutrition and the supplements and the exercises.
Yeah. And one of the quotes I love is, action creates mood. It's like, you can't just sit and just think it's going to happen. Actually going out there, even if it is going over a walk around the block, that's going to start getting you energy, start getting you feeling better, which ultimately changes your mood and your mindset. And it all works together. It's amazing.
It's so simple, yet almost always true for almost everyone, and so the act of just, open up the door and go for a walk. Yeah. You're not going to get jacked from that, but boy, you're going to change your perspective. And that's gold.
Well, and that's what I want to maybe, kind of nearing the end here. And I appreciate your time. Well, just a few more questions for you, because I really want to chat about, and this is a compliment, by the way. You don't look like you're in your 60s by any stretch of the imagination.
Hold on. Let me adjust the lighting. Let me go back. Hold on, wait.
And there you go. But the reason I bring that up is, we all think, and I'm an older millennial, I'll be 39 next month. And I look at when I was younger, when I saw my grandparents, I thought 60 was old. Right. And if you look back at pictures, and we can all do this, right? Look back pictures like, wow, they were 60. Like you look like you're in your 30s.
You are a good guy. And that's not true. I mean, but the reason I'm getting that is because I want to talk about active aging. You take care of yourself, not only fitness, other stuff. And this might go to the power of 4 stuff, but of the importance of kind of this whole ecosystem. It's not just eating healthy, or it's not just going to lift weights, or it's kind of, this evolution of, you have to do a lot of different things consistently over time. So can you share a little about what you think of active aging, how you're staying young and fit and healthy in your 60s? Well, it goes back to what you just said. I mean, movement changes your mood. And as we get older, we stop moving and we start gaining weight. And then of course our range of motion goes away and our flexibility goes away and our strength goes away. And there's all these things that we were given as kids. Some had a, you know, were you know, had better opportunities or had a, you know, you were dealt, dealt was the word I was looking for, just dealt a better hand of cards, right? And others weren't, but some people earn it, you know, and surpass everyone's expectations. I have certainly surpassed everybody's expectations for me because, you know, I mean, a lot of my friends and family were getting married and having jobs and moving on in life. And I was still, you know, I'm still doing mime at the pier, you know, in my late 20s and 30s. So I guess the short answer is there are certain rules to be able to get to the place that I'm at. I don't care if you're 30s, 40s, 50s, or even in 60 years old, and anybody can achieve it. You just have to make, you know, but the older you get, right? Old dogs, new tricks. It's harder for some people to learn those tricks as they get older. So the sooner you do it, the better, but it's not to say it's impossible. A lot of it has to do with your tribe. Who's in your life? You know, who do you look to? And for me, I mean, I've got 5 people already signed up who are going to be at my house here to do plyometrics. Do I want to do plyometrics by myself in the cold outside? No, I'd rather eat grass, honestly, you know, but they're going to be here. So we're going to freaking do it. And I know who we are afterward. And so, you know, I mean, I don't want to, I'm not here to promote the power of 4, but I created a program that was different than anything I've ever created in the past, because I knew that these elements were critical for people to make dramatic change in their life. Exercise, right? That's the foundation of who we are. If we move, we're more optimistic. Our strength improves, our flexibility improves, our balance improves. All these things that we want as adults, that we had as kids, come back because we're doing these things. We're not just doing weightlifting. We're doing body weight. We're doing primal flow. We're doing there's 2 martial arts routines. There's 2 ab routines. It's not 12 workouts. It's 25. 2 of them are just pure mindfulness meditation routines where, oh yeah, today is on the schedule. You're going to come in and you're going to sit down on a chair and you're going to shut up and you're going to breathe. All right, I'm going to walk you through it. You know what I mean? That's all it is. All right. It's like, wow, 7 days a week. Yeah. Because one day is morning yoga, which is 20 minutes. You could probably do that because you can either do that or drink a bucket of coffee because you think that the coffee is going to get you going. When it's your body moving and the oxygen that you're pumping into your brain through doing 20 minutes of yoga, that's a better option. So, you know, why don't you try that? And so, and as soon as you understand that you got to move or forget it, you're never going to be where I am. It's just not physically, it's not possible. It's just not possible. You can't do it through pills and potions and powders, you know what I mean? And purely on mindset, you got to move your body. This, you have 2 arms and 2 legs and all these fingers and these toes. They're like made to do stuff, you know what I mean? And then your brain works with these things and you're handed tools. Like, I mean, Tony, you saved my life. No, I didn't. I handed you the hammer and you built the house. I just handed you the hammer. A lot of people get the hammer and it sits on a shelf in the box for years. And they saw the infomercial and they never went, right? Because that's not going to work. I am who I am. My parents are overweight and so am I. And you know, change is, I'm not, you know what I mean? You have to have faith, you have to have belief, and you have to have trust in the source. And I happen to be one of many sources. That's it. And then number 1, it's food first. It's food. You know, I say that fitness gives you what fitness does. It allows you to do stuff that you can't do without it. What food and supplementation do is that's health and wellness. That's your intestines and your liver and all the organs in your stomach and your digestive tract and everything. That's everything on the inside. And we ignore that because we can't see it. But if we flipped it inside out, we'd go, what? There's a lot of inflammation in there and tumors and disease. And yeah, that's because of what you're putting in your gob, you know, mostly. And a lot of that's genetic too, you know, so, or environment, you know what I mean? Environment, if you got a high stress environment or you live next to Fukushima or Chernobyl, I'd move, you know what I mean? These are bad environments. You want to make sure, or water, you know, water and air, that's environment. And then of course, supplementation, a lot of people are like, supplements are a waste of time. I go, you find me a high school, collegiate, Olympic or professional athlete that's not taking some kind of supplement. And I'll, you know, that person's a genetic freak, you know what I mean? So, you know, I mean, what supplements are for is it's in the word, it supplements it supplements the vitamins and minerals and nutrients that you're not getting in your meals. right? And so, I mean, powders in the morning. I mean, protein shakes in the morning, protein shakes late afternoon, and vitamins in the morning. And it's been part of my success. And then of course there's the mindfulness and mindset piece of the puzzle, and a lot of that has to do with the company that you keep. I mean, if your 5 best friends were the top 5 ice climbers in the world, my guess is you'd be interested in that and you'd be pretty good at it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And if you've got a bunch of finger pointers and naysayers and wannabes and liars and procrastinators and mean people in your life, that says a lot about you. You know what I mean? So if you really want to progress and you really want to be the person you want to be and you want to be happy, I mean, it's in the Constitution. The pursuit of happiness is in the Constitution, for God's sake. So, you know what I mean? The key here is to really, find the kind of people that you want to be and be with them and look for them for help. And that's who I have. My wife is that one of those people, and all the other folks in my life are those people. And that's huge. That's, the company you keep is huge. It's way up on the list too.
And I know there's not a one size fits all here, and certainly people can consult their doctor and stuff, but is there supplementation, something that's really intrigued me the last few years? Is there something that, or a couple of things that you found through all this discovery over your fitness journey that have been, maybe it's a new discovery of, wow, this is really powerful. Anything that you would call out or anything you'd share from that end of things?
Well, a lot of supplements aren't what they say they are, but we don't know that because it tastes really good and it's fairly affordable and, it's on the shelf. So it's, I mean, you have to do your research. When I got sick, there were about 3 or 4 sources that, I mean, serendipitous, kismet, I don't know what you want to call it, but I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. There's this one woman, Tammy Murphy, who did blood work for me. I mean, 134 pages of, what I can eat, what I can't eat for the next 3 months, because I had leaky gut. I didn't know I had leaky gut. Excuse me. And then this gal, Tammy, Heather Fitzgerald, who's kind of a nutritionist, endocrinologist. She's like a vampire, man. She takes so much blood out of me. And we would look at it and what was like, because most blood panels, you're not getting enough information. Like they don't cover the hormones. They don't cover, a lot of the things that are sort of important, at least from her perspective. And she helped me a lot as well. And then, I met with this team of young guns, who had developed other supplement lines for other people. And they were like, hey, tell us a little bit about your illness. And then they consulted also with the 2 gals, Tammy and Heather, in regards to the leaky gut issue. And they were determined to come up with something, because so many people have it and they don't even know it. And leaky gut can lead, leaky gut leads to information. I used to have a bad shoulder and 2 bad knees and all kinds of pain in my feet. I don't have it anymore. You know what I mean? And I don't need, a lot of the, injections of Synvisc and PRP in my knees. I haven't needed it in 3 years. And I used to get it about every year. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's so much, leaky gut basically it's the food that you eat that exits out of your intestines before it exits out of where it's supposed to exit out. Okay. And so that just causes inflammation everywhere, which is, and that blood is going everywhere. And it's just really bad for you. So, we came up with this product called Foundation 4, which is a life changer. I mean, my nephew, who's had bloating and gas and major stomach issues, and he's a young kid, he's like 27 years old, and he just, it's just a lot of it had to do with what he was also shouldn't be consuming dairy, but Foundation 4 fixed this kid. I mean, honestly, he's like, those problems are gone, and they were only getting worse as he got older. So that was key for me, and then of course, when it comes to protein powder, I mean, there's this thing, and we talk about it in some of the ads that I do, this thing called sarcopenia that happens to anybody after their late 30s. It's just age-related muscle loss. You don't see a whole lot of jacked 90-year-olds, you know what I mean? Yeah. But, doing pretty good for 63. And, you can train, and what you're going to end up with is super sore muscles that never heal, and torn ligaments and tendons. And then, so that's what really prevents older folks like me from continuing to lift heavy, or, even do basic body weight exercises, because they're not recovering fast enough. And then 3 or 4 or 5 days go by, and that's just too many days between workouts. And so it becomes very discouraging. And they just, they'll go for walks or they'll ride their bike and they won't really, lift. And so we came up with this, they came up with it. It wasn't me, but there's all these studies after studies. I mean, you can Google these studies of HMB with vitamin D3. And HMB it helps I think it's leucine, one of the branch chain amino acids, do its thing, which is help. And the vitamin D3, that combination, it's like, who are these people that figure this stuff out? This blows my mind. And it takes 3,000 milligrams. That's what the study showed. I tried 1,500, some help, not enough. But then it turns 3,000 milligrams of HMB with vitamin D3 that help leucine, one of the branch chain amino acids, do its job. And, I was the guinea pig. Hey, Tony, here are the studies. I want you to look at them. We'll sit down and review these things with you. And do you want to try it? We'll make it in chocolate. Okay. And I did. And it's just been fun. It's just been fun to, because a lot of my peers don't show up to my workouts anymore because they can't do them. You know what I mean? Everybody here today is going to be younger than me by 10 years plus, and when I was skiing, look, I work out 5, minimum 7. I include meditation days. I do something every day. You know what I mean? Like we go to work all the time. Nobody skip work, skip breathing, skip food, skip sleep. You can't. Those are all the things that we do. We do all those things to pay our bills and survive. Well, I want to do more than survive. I want to thrive. And so I'm always searching for ways to, because I'm 63, man. I'm going to be 64 in about 4 months. So I just want to keep doing what's right because I'm enjoying the ride. And so it takes all those things. And for a lot of people, that feels overwhelming. But the power of 4, it's all in there. You know what I mean? Yeah. Go to powernationfitness.org and sign up and join the party, because there's a gal coming here. Her name is Mary. She's a cancer survivor. And she's close to my age. And she goes, I'm in the best shape of my life. I didn't know I could feel like this at my age. Because she shows up every day, and we have, the one thing about the program is we have something called stop options, which is you've started the workout, and then the big banner will come up, stop option, which means you can stop now, even though you're only 20 minutes in. The workout could be an hour, and there's another one at 40 minutes. You can stop there too. And then we have powering up and powering down. And hey, I had a workout yesterday where I felt good, and I was like, hey man, I want to lift a little heavier. Everything feels great. And then we call that powering up. And then I had a workout. It was my last week's shoulder routine. Ugh, I was dogging it, man. So I was powering down. And we make that very clear to people. Yeah. Hey, look at Alice here. She's going crazy. She's out of her mind. She's strong today. Here's Bobby. He's taking it easy. Pick one. You know what I mean? You're here. You're doing it. And a lot of people don't. They just feel like they got to go, guns blazing every time, or they're just going to overtrain and get hurt, right? So, and this is 35 years of doing this, man. And I hate to see people struggle who don't have to, because they don't have the right information.
Yeah, absolutely. Tony, this has been awesome. So when I pulled the audience, a lot of the folks that listen in, and they're like, you got to ask Tony a couple quick rapid fire questions.
Let's go.
So I'm gonna ask you just because I'm curious. Speed round. What is the catchphrase when people meet you that they say the most from one of your videos?
Well, do your best and forget the rest.
I thought that was going to be it.
That's number one. The other one is don't smash your face. I think it's that's high on the list. And then occasionally you get somebody who'll do a pterodactyl backing out of trouble. You know what I mean? Tony, right? Like they don't even know me, and they feel like that's cool to do, which is totally. It makes me, I fall on the floor laughing. Yeah, but do your best and forget the rest. It's trademarked. You can't even put that on a T-shirt unless you got to pay me for it.
Yes, absolutely.
That's number one.
What was there a workout that got cut from P90X or one of the other ones, like was gonna on the cutting room floor? Maybe it was gonna be in there and never made it.
In P90X, in Power 90 and P90X, before the lawyers got a hold of me. And by the way, in P90X, those dive bomber push-ups aren't necessarily great for everybody's shoulders. That would be probably one I would have pulled out. And then there were these in P90X2, there were these 4-ball dive bomber pike presses that got yanked right out. So if you do how come that routine's so much shorter than all the others? And this is after we shot it. And then the lawyers got a hold of it. Someone's going to break their head. They're going to smash their face. But no, there were never any routines except for recently in the Power of 4. Now, if you did P90X3, there was something called the challenge. And the challenge is all pull-ups and push-ups, right? Mm-hmm. But you have to predetermine that number of each one, and that number of repetitions regardless of what the push-up or pull-up was, had to stay the same from the beginning to the end. So if you were going to pick them, the first 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sets were going to be easier, but the last ones were going to be harder, and those numbers would all go up. So we have a new one in the Power of 4 called Triple Trouble Challenge, which means you're doing 3 sets of push-ups. And if you pick the number 25, then you have to do 3 sets of 25 every time. And then you go right to pull-ups and do 3 sets of pull-ups. And so Bobby, who's in the original Chest and Back and P90X, during the pandemic, a lot of people were training on their own and they didn't have that camaraderie, or there wasn't that level of pushing. And so Bobby was fit, but he wasn't Triple Trouble Challenge fit, and he thought he was. And I'm probably feels like I'm throwing him under the bus. We shot that routine, and he's literally like turning white and passing out and taking these big breaks. And he's sitting there in a chair. We're shooting the thing. He goes, "Man, this routine's really hard." And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, just cut." You know what I mean? Like I'm calling cut. And then I thought, oh, we're gonna have to paste this thing together with big ass breaks. And we just decided to reshoot it. So it's in the archives, and we might do it as a special release if just to show people what not to do. But yeah.
What last one here? How many corn cob pull-ups can you do if we had to do them today?
God, I don't do corn cobs anymore. I do levers, and I do plyometric switch grip, and I do pullovers and muscle ups. Corn cobs.
The corn cob gets asked a lot because it's just a unique
in and out. I could probably do 15 of them, I would say, these days. Yeah.
So this has been an absolute blast. Any lasting words of wisdom, advice, insight for anyone listening in that you'd share before I let you go?
Well, there's something that if you really want to get healthy and fit and strong, there's some basic things that you need to do. And these basic things will prevent boredom, injuries, and plateaus. Now, most people who are in a fitness journey suffer from one or all 3 of those, right? They keep doing the same thing and over again, expecting a new result. Like Einstein said, not going to work. It's not exactly what he said, but he said, you're not going to get the result that you want because you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting something to happen, right? So you'll get bored and you quit. Or, there's a lot of fitness out there, and you're a CrossFit guy. You got the wrong CrossFit coach, or you got the wrong any kind of coach, you know what I mean? And your ego's in the game too much, you're going to get hurt. And so people have gotten hurt doing P90X. I'm not saying this, because they were trying to do too much too fast. And then the plateau thing is like, you're seeing something and then it just stops. It's because it's just Pilates, or it's just Peloton, or it's just, body weight, and the idea here is to work on your weaknesses. So to avoid those 3 things, you need a purpose, you need a plan, and you need a way to stay accountable. And so, when you're younger, your purpose is typically, I want to be big. I got my nephew. I want to be bigger. Why? Are you on a lacrosse team? Are you playing football? No, well, then how about a personality and a decent income? If you're trying to attract the opposite sex, then being big ain't it, man. You know what I mean? That's just you and your ego. So your purpose has to really be based in health and wellness and flexibility and balance and speed and some of the things that are more athletic in nature, right? And then a plan is, what are you going to do and what time you're going to do it? And you got to write that down 30 days in advance till the day you die, until it becomes locked in, And then accountability usually comes from, like I said, the company you keep. So if you got the right people in your life and you're all doing this thing together and you know exactly what you're going to do, and that's a priority, like, what, work is here and dinner is here and that is here, but your workout, like all my workouts 7 days a week, nobody schedules anything anywhere near them. That's just because that's who I am, and that's how it has to be. And that has to be for the average person, right? And then that combination will prevent the boredom, injuries, and plateaus. And you'll see tremendous success, and you'll change your life, and you'll transform, and then you'll have that impact on other people, which is really where the rubber hits the road. Like, personal development is, they call it self-help, but you should stop helping yourself and helping others, because they're seeing your success and your happiness and your how strong and healthy you are. And that's when you can impact others like I have, that's absolute, that's glory. That's fantastic. That's how you should live your life, I think.
I mean, those are good words to end on, man. I know you have a lot of competing priorities, so I certainly appreciate you coming on here, sharing your journey, insights. This was a lot of fun, and I certainly appreciate it.
Brian, you're very welcome. You're very good at what you do, man. I do a lot of these. I do a couple a week, sometimes, and sometimes the questions are kind of lame. Not here. These are, you didn't make it about you, which is cool. Sometimes I'll sit and just listen to a podcast person talking about themselves for 5 minutes. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, I appreciate you having me, and you're having an impact on others as well, and that's very commendable, man. It's a beautiful thing.